Dear colleagues, hello again. I guess Lena already introduced you to me and me to you, but I will repeat. My name is Sandis Laime, and I'm the senior researcher at the Institute of Literature, Folklore and Art. And in this ISFNR lecture, I would like to tell you a bit about my witchcraft narrative studies in Latvia. So at the beginning of this lecture, I will tell you a bit about myself. Then I will switch to some words about the Archives of Latvian Folklore, which is my department at the Institute of Literature, Folklore and Arts. We are celebrating our 100th anniversary this year. And also the digital archive of our department is having the 10th anniversary this year. A few words about it as well. And then I will switch to my research on witches and witchcraft. So a few words about myself. I was born in a small town in Cēsis in Latvia. In Germany, it is known as Venden. It's about 100 kilometers from Riga. And nowadays it's quite a small town, but in historical times, in medieval times, early modern period, it was an important place. It was this castle in the picture was the residence of the Livonian masters. And by the way, if you know or if you have heard about Livonian werewolves, the most known of them, Thies, the Livonian werewolf Thies, was tried in one of these buildings behind the church at the end of the 17th century. The most famous Latvian peasant of the 17th century. So I started my studies at the University of Latvia in 2000, in year 2000, and ended the studies by defending my PhD thesis in 2011. And still, when I was a student, graduate student, I started working at the Institute of Literature, Folklore and Art at the University of Latvia. And after completing my postdoctoral project in 2021, I was elected as a senior researcher at the Institute and also started heading the digital archives of our institute. Talking about the ISFNR, the first ISFNR event I ever attended was the Congress in Athens in 2009. And believe me, at that time, I could not imagine that I will be organizing another Congress in Riga, which took place a couple of months ago in June of this year as one of the events of the 100th anniversary of Latvian folklore archives. Talking about my research interests, I started with the interest, quite an archaeological interest in Latvian rock carvings, sandstone rock carvings. You can see me in a picture in a cave documenting these mysterious things. Related to this, I had my not PhD thesis, but a master thesis on the cave folklore in Latvia. It was published in a book in Latvian. In English, it would be called The Sacred Underground Cave Folklore in Latvia. And it covered not only the sacred space, caves as a sacred space, but also as an economic space and also as a touristic space. But the main task, of course, was to examine the caves as an element of the sacred sites in Latvia and the folklore of caves. Then, if the previous book covered about 40 caves, then the next book was dedicated only to one cave, the most special one of them, the Livonian Offering Cave, which has a very rich archaeological material related to it, offerings left there by the local peasants, Livonians, from the 14th to up to the 19th century. It has also the magical signs engraved in the walls of the cave and folklore related to the place. It has quite old touristic traditions. So a very special place and a special book as well for me. Then, after examining caves as one kind of the sacred sites in Latvia, I decided to theorize this question, the question about what is a sacred site in Latvia from a folklorist's point of view. Archaeologists claim that all places related to place names, including the word witch, ragana, are also among the sacred places. So I had some doubt about this and started gathering folklore material about the witch places in Latvia for my PhD thesis. And then I came across a very intriguing material about raganas, witches in Latvian, folklore texts which actually completely did not comply with my understanding of what a witch is. Later, it turned out that that material is related to night witches, and they represent quite an old layer of Latvian beliefs about witches. And this material was so intriguing that in the course of my PhD studies, I changed my PhD topic and decided to examine this tradition about 300 texts from northeastern Latvia. And this book is the publication of my thesis, which was defended in 2011. And we come to the next book, which is the last book. It is not published yet, but it is about to be published in about a couple of weeks. Just read the third proofreading, did the third proofreading today. So it was the final one, and now this book is traveling to how you call it, publishing house to be printed. I will tell about it a bit later. Just couldn't stop with my PhD thesis. I felt that I would like to learn more about the historical typology of Latvian witchcraft beliefs. And in my PhD thesis, I covered only the seemingly oldest layer of these beliefs. So then I started broadening the topic to later beliefs, also to demonic witches, which is the most recent layer of witchcraft beliefs in Latvia. So this is a result of my further investigation and also the postdoctoral project. So as I said, I'm working at the Archives of Latvian Folklore, which is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. So a couple of words about this institution. Archives of Latvian Folklore is the oldest scientific institution in Latvia, which was established thanks to the initiative of Anna Bērskalne. She was the first representative of Finnish school in Latvia, and it was her idea that Archives of Latvian Folklore should be established. And luckily at that time, the Minister of Education and Science for a short period was Kārlis Straubergs, another folklorist, who became the director of the archives in the 30s. Some years later, Kārlis Straubergs is known for his research on verbal charms and for preparing the charm catalog at the Archives of Latvian Folklore. So these two persons are important for our early history. So this is a nice picture from the 1920s showing the work on the manuscripts of folklore. At the very beginnings of the Archives of Latvian Folklore, a special effort was paid to collect folklore from the regions where folklore had not been collected before. At the end of the 19th century, we had two huge folklore publications. One of them was the Latvian folk song publication in 6 volumes, classified by Krišjānis Barons, and the other one, 7 volumes of Latvian folk tales and legends, published by Ants Lerhis Puškaitis, which was actually the biggest collection of folk narratives published at that time in Europe. So these two publications had an extensive material published, but not represented. Not all Latvian parishes were represented in these publications. So the first aim of the Archives of Latvian Folklore was to collect folklore material from these areas. So the ladies here are registering the new material. At that time, in the 20s and 30s, school children and students were involved in folklore collection. So a lot of material was really collected at that time. Later on, in the Soviet times, thanks God, the archives were not closed and the collections were preserved. But general public was not involved in folklore collection anymore. These were the folklorists and philology students who went on expeditions every year to a different place, and so this is how the folklore was collected in the Soviet times. And then, starting from the 90s, we have again regained our independence as a state, and we have also moved to a new building from the Academy of Sciences building, Stalinist building, to the National Library building. If you visited the Congress this June, the opening ceremony we had, it was here, as you remember. So another anniversary, 10 years of our digital archive. Digital archive was established with the aim of making our materials openly public and published online. And the Archives of Latvian Folklore store more than 3 million folklore texts. All of the manuscripts, now I can say all of the manuscripts have been digitized, and this work, this huge work that took about 10 years to be completed, finished some 10 days ago. So we have digitized everything now, and everything is available online now. I mean, the historical collections, not newly collected collections, which are not publicly available. So more than 1,050,000 files of manuscript scans and audio files have been uploaded to our digital archives by now. And yes, people are encouraged to volunteer to help us transcribe these texts, the manuscripts, I mean. And we have been running the crowdsourcing campaigns since 2016. And due to this, about 250,000 manuscript files have been already transcribed. It is about 1/3 of the archive. And the next big task is to add the metadata of the folklore manuscripts, and by now we have added metadata of less than 500,000 folklore units. It's about 15%. Well, the rest should be done perhaps in the next 10 years. It's quite a huge amount of work to be done. So this is the front page of the digital archives, the English interface. Perhaps if we have some time at the end of this lecture, I will show you a bit more of it. So now let's turn to my research. And my aim is not to tell you about witchcraft beliefs in detail. I would like to tell you about some of my methods important for my research. So I hope this I'll be able to do it not very chaotically. So basically speaking, we have 3 designations for witches in Latvia, which are Ragana, Lauma, and Spīgana, and each of these names has a bit different history. The first 2 of them, Ragana and Lauma, they initially have had a completely different meaning compared to the contemporary meaning, a witch. So my aim has been to make research on what exactly these names mean at the initial stage of these traditions, and what kind of beliefs were related to these traditions, and why it happened so that these names were used for denoting witches in later historical periods. And then the Spīgana is a name exactly meaning the witch, a very special kind of witch, the milk witches, who do their witchcraft not in person, but by releasing the soul. So that is the soul that flies to steal milk, and they do not absolutely do not do other things except of milk stealing, and they do it by releasing the soul from the body. The soul flies to some neighbor, steals the milk, and returns back to the body. And the spigana, the word exactly means something that shines. So this is the flying soul that shines in form of some asteroid or meteorite. So in this case, it is exactly the same being we learned from the folklore collections. The word initially meant the same, but this is not the case about the Ragana and Lauma. And the word Ragana is common for both Baltic nations, Latvians and Lithuanians. And also in Lithuania, Ragana means the same, a witch. And in the case of Lauma, in Lithuania, it has the oldest meaning related to some kind of supernatural being. In Latvia, this name, at least in the 18th century, in the 19th and 20th century, has been used to denote only witches, which is interesting. Terminologically, it is interesting because it is the same word but denoting so um, different things. But as you will see, the same situation applies to the word ragana. The previous researchers mainly claim that witchcraft beliefs in Latvia, they are quite unified and homogeneous. So they said there is no difference between the Spigana, the Lauma, and the Ragana. They all are the same, and they all were in some way influenced by the witch hunt period folklore that migrated to Latvia in the 16th to 18th centuries. So they see no difference, and I disagree with this point of view. So instead of one layer of witches, we actually have several layers, and this is only about beings named Ragana. They have at least three layers of beliefs documented in folklore collections, and the same. And also these three layers have some sub-traditions, smaller traditions. So night witches, for example, have 4 traditions, milk witches have 2 traditions. So actually this landscape of witches in Latvia is quite diverse. And my aim has been to understand the chronology of these traditions, their distribution, the typical traits of these traditions, and so on and so on. So just to repeat, night witches, milk witches, and I call them now demonic witches, the diabolized ones, are the 3 basic layers of witchcraft beliefs in Latvia. So some of the methods I employ in my research, linguistic approaches are very essential for this kind of research, and trying to understand the initial or the oldest layers of the tradition, because the word itself conserves some kind of its history. Linguists can analyze the words and propose the hypothesis about their initial meaning. So in this case, when talking about the names of the witches, it is very important to understand what was the initial meaning of that or other name, because it says something about development of witchcraft traditions and so on. And also the semasiological analysis is very important. It is related to the semantics of the word, because as I said in the folklore texts, the landscape of witches traditions is quite diverse in Latvia, and there can be regional differences in the meaning of one or another name for the witches, and some of the traditions are quite local, some are quite widespread, like national, some are regional, and there certainly are differences in these designations. And another method, linguistic method, is related to toponym research, like areal linguistics, and it also has some interesting results, as you will see a bit later in when I will turn to mapping. So some words about the word ragana. Nowadays, people understand only one thing by hearing this word, and this is a witch. It means that's a woman who can cast spells, who practices magic, and so on and so on. So it's a human being, of course. And we have this meaning documented since the first records of this word. The word Ragana was first mentioned in a witch trial record in 1574, when it was attributed to a woman who was practicing witchcraft, and she was burned at the stake for doing that. Then next we have the earliest dictionaries. The first Latvian dictionary, Letus, was published in 1638 by Georg Smancelis. That's a German Latvian dictionary, and it already has the first dictionary has two names for witches published in it. It means in the 17th century the word witch was important because that was the witch hunt period, and the upper class people who didn't speak Latvian, they had to know what are the vernacular terms for the beings they are hunting. So the earliest dictionary gives the translation for Ragana, fliegende Zauberin in German, or fliegende Hure, which means a flying sorcerer or a flying bitch. And this flying attribute, it means it corresponds to the beliefs of learned demonology that witches fly to the Sabbath. So this is why all these earliest translations of this word from the witch hunt period, they call Raganas like flying sorcerers. And as we can see, this continues also in later dictionaries. And now, so as we could see in the 16th and 17th centuries, the word already designated what it designates today. So a human being, usually a woman, who can practice magic. So what do the linguists say about the original meaning of this word? Already in the 19th century, German linguist August Leskien suggested that the word ragana is related to a verb redzēt, to see, and his explanation was that ragana initially meant a woman who can see in the future or a series. Then, well, we do not have any support for this etymology in the folklore texts. Just like for the next etymology by the linguist Yuri Otkupshiko, his idea was that ragana initially meant a mythological being with horns, related to the word ragi, horn. But this etymology also doesn't find any support in folklore material. And the third and the most recent etymology is by German linguist Bernd Gliva, and he proposes to the etymology where the ragana is also related to the verb redzēt, to see, but he says that ragana is not the one who sees in the future, but the one who is seen. So he says the ragana is some kind of a haunting ghost or a spirit of the dead. And this etymology appeared at the time when I was working on my PhD thesis, and it was very, so to say, fortunate. I was fortunate to see that linguists also think that the ragana initially meant something different than we understand it today. So it quite well also described the material I had collected for my PhD thesis, about 300 folklore texts from northeastern Latvia. So in these texts, we are talking about ragana, witches, which are actually not human beings, but supernatural beings, rather supernatural beings, the souls of the dead, some category of them. So the next very important method, of course, is legend indexing. And here you have a possibility to have a look in my new book. This is what I have done to all three stages of Latvian witchcraft beliefs, to the night witches, folklore texts, milk witches, folklore texts, and demonic witches texts. So I have prepared two indexes for this material based on about 2000 texts. So the first index is the Motif index, and the second one is the type index of legends, while Motif index contains also other folklore genres. So let's see at one entity in this Motif index. It's the text to the left, motive number 3.5. Which is called witches, or witches' souls in form of astral object. So the next line shows the sources. I have also made some kind of excerption of the witch trial records. So it gives some chronological deepening to this index. So if the motive has been documented in witch trial records, you will see some years when this motive appears in the the records of witch trials. And then legends believes the folklore genres where this motive can be used. The next line shows the references to legend types where this motif has been used. So you can navigate from this part to the other part of the book, which contains legend types, and see what legend types these are. Then the next line you will probably recognize. It is a reference to similar motif, if there is a one, in Steve Thompson's motif index. And the last, the arrow shows the similarities in this motif index. So it is yeah, some motifs can appear in a different wording in different parts of the motif index. So the last line shows the parallels or cross references of this in motif in this index. So you can navigate to K8 and see what motif it is. And this is an example of the legend type index. It's legend number K258, named John. How did you get there or here? So you see it has, of course, a legend summary, the type summary. In the type summary, in the square brackets, you see the numbers, small numbers. These are the references to motifs used in this legend type. So you can again go and check what information is available on these motifs. Then the notes about this legend type. The first one, these 5 bricks, it shows to which of the layers of witchcraft beliefs this legend belongs to, and which names for the witches are used in these texts, and also how popular they are. So this line should be read as so 3 stars means it is popular, 1 star it is quite scarce, 2 stars it means sometimes. So this text is often, this legend type is often documented, in the milk witch tradition, the second type of it, and the witches are called Burve and Ragana in these legends. And then it can also sometimes or rarely be used in the tradition of demonic witches, and they add the name for these witches is Ragana. Then the next line is quite important. It is the combinations. It shows, it lists the other legend types which can be combined with this legend. And again, K238 is often combined with this legend. Then 202 is sometimes combined, and the rest of the types are rarely combined with this legend type. And the last line shows the geographic distribution of this legend in Latvia. So in the Vidzeme region, it is used, it has been documented fairly often, and sometimes also in Zemgale. So if other, there are in total there are 5 regions, historical regions in Latvia. So if the rest of them is not mentioned, they have not been documented there. So this is shortly about the motif and type indexes. Of course, when we look at the legend corpus as folklorists, In my case, this is about 2000 texts. As I said, we see that this material can be divided in several types, in motifs and so on. So we make some kind of classification of our corpora. And the next step, we can make some thematic groups of these types or motifs. In this case, different colors designate different layers of witchcraft beliefs. So in the corpus of my 2000 texts, well, I can divide these texts in about three different witchcraft belief layers, which is night witches, milk witches, and demonic witches, as I told you before. And this is a very, so to say, important step because, as I told you, I have paid special attention to the moment how these legend types I have described, how they combine with each other. And this is very instrumental if you're making research on and trying to so to say stratify some kind of tradition or some kind of beliefs, because what I proved in my research, for example, legend types characteristic of night witches, they will never be told about milk witches or demonic witches, and they will never combine to any of other traditions of witches because the tradition doesn't allow it. Each traditional layer has its own typical motives and types, the tradition corpus, and it is very unlikely that it will be used in the repertoire of other belief systems. So finding out this kind of network between the basic motives and the types of legends, they connect to each other and they actually show where one tradition corpus begins and the other one ends. So this combining moment, it was very important in my research to understand, so to say, where one tradition starts and the other one ends. Because, as I said previously, we do not have different names for these beings. In all texts, they are referred to as Ragana, for example. And Ragana can be a night witch, Ragana can be a milk witch, Ragana can be a demonic witch. The same name can, in different regions of Latvia and in different times, can be used for different beings. So this network of types and the primary motives used in these types is very definitive and instrumental. So comparative methods also, of course, there can be used in a very wide, so to say, in very diverse ways. In let's say in the night witch, in my PhD research, I used the comparative method for just to understand the so to say basic things about the night witch tradition, because what Gliva suggested was that it could be initially some kind of ghosts, haunting ghost, the souls of the dead. And then we have about 300 texts about these night witches, but no idea what is their purpose or what are these beings, because at the end of the 19th century these texts were actually inherited, they were told, but there are very few, so to say, direct indications what these night witches are. And comparative method helped me find out this thing. And it turned out that the basic motive used in the night witch tradition in Latvia, which is a night witch, is beating laundry. It is washing clothes in a very special way by beating it. And the texts about beating laundry, they compose more than half of the whole text corpus. So in Europe, there is a special kind of supernatural beings, or the souls of the departed persons, the restless souls, so-called night washers, who are doing the same thing. And it was quite important for me to find these traditions and to see what these traditions tell about the origin of these kind of witches or night washers. And in many traditions, these were the souls, restless souls, the souls of the women who had died during the childbirth, so they were demonized after the death. These were the souls of women who had killed their children during their lifetime. And we have one text, one legend supporting this idea also in Latvia. And also women who had not managed to marry during their lifetime. So these night washers are a special kind of departed souls of the departed women. And this comparative method also gave me some understanding of what this washing or beating laundry means in some French texts, and I believe also in some other traditions. It is said that beating laundry means actually washing or purifying. So this motive has a symbol, some kind of symbolism behind it. So these women who have died during the childbirth, who have killed their children, or who have died before marriage, the souls of these women were demonized. So they had to do some kind of purification after the death. And so this is why they are washing themselves, washing clothes, beating clothes. And this is why they do this thing near cemeteries, at least in Latvian case, the old cemeteries. So one of the examples how the comparative method has been helpful. But of course, the very interesting period in witchcraft beliefs is the 16th and 17th centuries, when Latvia was reached by the witch hunt wave from the Western Europe. And this diagram illustrates the intensity of witch hunt in Latvia. The yellow bars are showing all of the witch trials that we know about nowadays. The black ones are showing the rate of the diabolic witch trials. So the trials where people have confessed that they have signed the pact with the devil, and similar motives. And the blue bars show the so-called sabbatic trials. And as we can see, these sabbatic trials existed only for a short period at the beginning of the witch hunt in Latvia. And this was most probably the time when also legends and beliefs about witches' sabbats reached the territory of Latvia. They did not adapt to the local tradition as a belief tradition, but legends were told most probably as interesting stories, similar to folk tales even in the 20th century. So this is the time period when these beliefs most probably reached Latvia, and again, comparative methods would be very interesting to find out how it happened, which ways did these legends used to migrate to Latvia, and how they were perceived by local people, and what changed in these narratives when they reached this region, and what remained from the original narratives, and so on. So many interesting research questions. As we can see, there are of course the learned tradition, or the works of demonologists who have written books and treatises about the witches, the demonic witches, and also this has found some representation in the art. And as we can see, this nice painting by Johann Jakob Wick from Switzerland in the 17th century. Many motives that can be seen in this picture are also documented in Latvia. For example, that woman behind the devil's chair is causing a climate change at that time. So some hailstorm or something like this is coming from that cloud. And then the other lady is kissing devil's ass, and some devils are making possibly the witch's ointment or some other beverages there. And so we have all kind of this stuff also in Latvian folklore. The question is how it came here, and it's very important to have a material to compare. So in this respect, I think still every index of legend types and legend motives is very welcome, because then a detailed comparison can be done. So another thing related to the tradition history is mapping. And for example, this map shows the area of night witch tradition in the 19th and 20th century. And here on the left side, we see that the green dots, they stop almost like at a wall. And if we see another map, this is the dialect map of Latvia, we see that this blue area was inhabited by Leaves or Livonians who spoke a different language, belonging to a different language group, the Baltic, they're Baltic Finns, while in the neighboring parishes, the majority of inhabitants was of Baltic origin, Latvians, and you see that legend material has not been documented from that Livonian area. These black dots here, these are the place names. That's a bit different story. Just pay attention to the dialect borders. And this is not the only case when the material fits very well in some dialect area, which is very significant because the language history and the folklore history and belief history in that region can be traced to quite distant past in these cases. Or another example, in the 17th century, as you can see in the map to the right, Latvia was divided in three parts. The yellow one is the Swedish Livland, a territory belonging to the Swedish kingdom. The green one was quite an autonomous duchy of Kurland, related to the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. And the orange part, the Polish Livland, was directly, so to say, included in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. So three different political administrative territories, three different legislations used in witchcraft trials, witch trials, and also three different, so to say, let's reformulate it, also different kind of witchcraft legends circulating in this area. And to the right, you see that I have shown you the map of folk tales related to legends related to witches' familiars, and you can see that they are distributed mainly in the Swedish Livland, and only some texts in the southern Latvia, in Kurland and Semigalia. So there could be some connection with the political map, taking in account that the folklore about witches' familiars belongs to the demonic witch tradition, most probably, because it was not characteristic of milk witches in the previous, before the witch hunt period. And another example with some witch burning folklore, this area in Kurland, in the map on the left, shows text, very interesting text about the burning of a male witch, Vatskushchis, which are very interesting because they are quite close to the learned ideas about witches and sorcerers, and which is not very typical of other parts of Latvia, but specifically in this legend cycle about the Vatskushchis, these learned ideas are very, very obvious. And it is not surprising that the small village of Piltene nowadays, if we take in account that in historical times, Piltene was quite an important place. It was the center of the bishopry, and it was also the center of the quite autonomous Piltene region with its own legislation and court system. It was like incorporated in the Duchy of Kurland, but still it had some autonomy, and it even had a king, Magnus, for a short period of time. So it seems that the legends typical of learned learned demonological discourse spread right next to this historical center, but they didn't go any further. So the area still is quite small, where these legends about burning Veckušķis were recorded. So, and one more short comment about the place valence approach that I introduced during my PhD work, research work. The aim of this approach is to try to understand the reasons why specific legends are related to specific places in the landscape. It means that it requires finding these places in the landscape and analyzing that landscape. Because the place valence, yeah, by the way, the term valence is used in linguistics and in chemistry, and it means the ability of one element to attract some other element. And in my case, I use it. I use the term place valence and I mean by using this term the ability of some place to attract specific legend types or motives. So this place has to have some kind of qualities, and these qualities can be natural and historical. And in this case, I have mapped some places in the landscape about legends about night witches. The area is quite small, a couple of kilometers, and quite often we see that these legends about night witches, they concentrate in like in some areas, and then there are areas where there is no folklore about them at all. And I was quite curious to understand what are the reasons why there are like such clusters of legends about night witches. And so I analyzed both the natural specifics of this place and the historical ones, and it came out that in many cases the legends about night witches beating laundry again, or leading people astray, or dwelling, they are located in old cemeteries. By saying old, I mean the 12th century to the 18th century. So this kind of analysis shows that the legends about night witches are related to the places where people were buried some time ago. And so as I told you before, this washing moment, meaning the purification, it actually means that the souls of the departed women have wandered around the cemeteries where they are doing this symbolic thing. And in this case, the valence of the old cemeteries is that yeah, that's the magnet. That's the reason why night witches legends are like uh, grouping around some specific points in the landscape. And it is also an argument that supports Gliva's idea about the initial meaning of the word ragana, who connects the word to the souls of the dead. So, well, this is shortly, I will skip the last slide. This is shortly about not exactly the Latvian witchcraft beliefs, but main instruments I use to analyze the historical typology of these beliefs. Thank you, and you're welcome to ask some questions.